The Nibelungenlied has enjoyed such a wide readership for so many centuries. Much is known about the historical context of the poem as well as about the literary sources it drew on, including mythology, legend. The story is one of heroism, romance, courtly manners, deception, and revenge.
The Nibelungenlied is a German epic poem which was written sometime around 1200, probably in what is today Austria. The title means Song of the Nibelings. Nibelungen is the plural of Nibeling, which refers to a dynasty which is conquered by the hero or protagonist of the epic. The dragon slayer Siegfried. The word Lied means lay, which is a Germanic word for a song, poem, or lyric.
The Nibelungenlied combines elements of many different historical, legendary, and mythological tales. The legend of the Nibelungs arose from the historical destruction of the Burgundian kingdom on the Rhine River by Edsel's army of Huns, later identified in legend with the army of Attila the Hun, around the year 437.
The Nibelungenlied and the legends, it was based on and existed in oral form long before it was ever written down. A version of the Nibelungenlied was first translated in modern German in 1757, under the title of Kriemhild's Revenge. Many more versions followed but no English translation appeared until 1814. The first complete English prose version appeared in 1848. There have been many more in both prose and verse form.
The author of the Nibelungenlied is not known. The author is thought to have been male, possibly an Austrian from the Danube region, either a minstrel poet, a traveling poet, or a one associated with a court, a knight, or a clergyman associated with court life. Some critics express doubt that the author was a knight, primarily because the epic does not contain convincing or extensive details about military skill and technique, despite the numerous battle scenes. Critics believe that the final version of the poem was written by only one author because of its consistency in tone, language, and action. It was conventional at the time not to sign literary works. In fact, many written works that survived from the Middle Ages are anonymous.
The idea of this poem is to explain mythically and poetically what kind of heroism went into forming and leading the Netherlands. The characters are mostly royal, indicating the height of drama that the story intends. The royalty of the characters guides them to behave honorably. That does not mean that they don't commit actions of drastic nature, but their bold, courageous decision-making seems to stem from their sense of royal authority.
Heroism is depicted in the story as the acceptance of death. By acknowledging the ultimate seriousness of death, the story paints tragedies, like the deaths of Etzel, Siegfried, and Kriemhild. These deaths are portraits of human life, because thematically, the poem seems to suggest to the reader that they also accept their mortality, so they too can be heroic like Etzel, who does not crack under pressure, who does not betray the others, even when it might save his life.
Although there are gruesome and tragic stories in this poetry, the main goals or thirsts for the characters in this poem are clearly love and marriage. Marriage is depicted in its royal sense, so that marriage is also dramatic and complicated, because marriages are important to the development of kingdoms, and that means that ending up with the right person is a serious issue to these titanic characters.
Siegfried, a prince of Netherlands whose heroic achievements include the winning of the great treasure hoard of Nibelung. Having bathed in the blood of a dragon he slew, Siegfried is invulnerable except for a spot between his shoulders where a linden lead had fallen.
Kriemhild. The bitter sister of the King of Burgundy. She marries Siegfried and is subsequently tricked into revealing the secret of his vulnerability. After a long period of widowhood and mourning, she becomes the wife of the King of Huns. Still seeking vengeance of Siegfried's death, she invites the whole Burgundian court to Hunland. In the final bloody combat, all of Burgundians are killed and Kriemhild herself is slain by her husband's order.
Gunther, King of Burgundy, he promises that Siegfried shall marry Kriemhild in return for aiding him in winning Brunhild. With Siegfried's aid, Gunther overcomes Brunhild in her required feats of skill and strength. After the double wedding, Siegfried is again needed to impersonate Gunther in subduing Brunhild, who has determined never to let Gunther share her bed. Gunther is killed in the final bloodbath in Hunland.
Brunhild, the daughter of Wotan, won by Gunther with Siegfried's help. Wishing to see Siegfried again, she plans a hunting party to which he and Kriemhild are invited. A great rivalry develops between the women. Kriemhild takes revenge by telling Brunhild the story of her wedding night. Though Gunther and Siegfried settle the quarrel to their own satisfaction, it becomes a source of trouble among Gunther's brothers.
Hagen, a retainer of the Burgundians and a crafty and troublemaking knight. It is he who slays Siegfried, hoping to get the Nibelungen treasure, now Kriemhild's, for himself. He orders it dropped into the Rhine. He is slain by Kriemhild herself, and with him dies the secret of the treasure's hiding place.
Brothers of Kriemhild and Gunther, convinced by Hagen that Siegfried has stained the honor of their house, they plot with Hagen to kill him. Later, they fall victim to Brunhild's revenge.
Etzil, also known as Attila, king of the Huns, Kriemhild's second husband.
Ortlieb, Kriemhild's small son. Etzel gives him to the Burgundians as a hostage, and he is killed by Hagen when the fighting begins.
Dankwart, the brother of Hagen, he too is killed in Hunland. Sir Dietrich, a knight who warns the Burgundians that Kriemhild still plots vengeance. As a result, they refuse to give up their weapons.
Sir Broider, a knight who comes to Dankwart's quarters demanding vengeance for Kriemhild. He is killed by Dankwart and thus final bloody combat begins. Irene, one of Kriemhild's heroes. Hildebrand, a retainer of Etzel. At a sign from Etzel, he ends Kriemhild's life.
Arnold, a Burgundian hero.
Queen Yuta, the mother of Kriemhild. King Sigmund, the father of Siegfried. Queen Sieglind, the mother of Siegfried.
Ludger, king of the Saxons. After spending a year in Burgundian court, Siegfried aids Gunther in overcoming the Saxons. In the celebration that followed, Ludger sees Kriemhild for the first time. Gelfand, a Burgundian slain by a Dankwart in a quarrel at the start of the journey to Hunland. These and the other evil omens are ignored.
The Nibelungenlied, or Song of the Nibelungs, is an epic poem originally written in the dead language of Middle High German. Written by an unknown poet between the years 1180 and 1210, it focuses on the tale of Siegfried the Dragon Slayer, his time at the court of the Burgundians, his murder and revenge of his wife Kriemhild, based on pre-Christian Germanic heroic motifs, as well as an oral tradition dating back to the 5th and 6th centuries. It is considered one of the remaining classics of Middle Ages European literature. Although the authorship is unknown, it has been speculated to be the work of multiple early German poets, including Brigger von Steinach, Walter von der Wolgenweid. However, most historians believe there is no way to determine the author.
Elements of the Nibelungenlied have influenced later works including the Icelandic Volsunga saga, as well the Old Norse prose Edda and Poetic Edda. In 2009, the three main manuscripts of the Nibelungenlied were inscribed in UNESCO's Memory of the World Register. It has been adapted into stage productions, movies, and television miniseries. It is also considered to be the inspiration for Richard Wagner's Ring Cycle.
The Nibelungenlied is divided into two parts. The first part, Siegfried and Kriemhild. It opens by introducing the court of Burgundy. Kriemhild, the sister of King Gunther, has a dream that is interpreted as a prophecy regarding the death of her future husband. Kriemhild vows to remain unmarried, but she soon meets Siegfried, the crown prince of the Principality of Santen. He arrives to woo Kriemhild, although King Gunther's vassal, Hagen von Tronje, is suspicious of him. He tells the king stories of Siegfried's brutal youth, where he killed a dragon and supposedly gained the power of invulnerability, save for one spot on his back from its blood.
Despite this, the king allows him to stay in the kingdom, but does not allow him to meet the princess. When Siegfried helps Gunther defeat the invading Saxons, he wins the king's favor. The king asks Siegfried to sail with him to help him win the heart of the Queen of Iceland, Brunhild. Siegfried takes the opportunity to ask Gunther for Kriemhild's hand. Brunhild is unimpressed by Gunther and challenges him to feats of strength. If he wins, she will marry him, but if he fails, he and his men will be sentenced to death.
Brunhild proves to be immensely strong, but Siegfried cheats and retrieves a magic cloak he has from an earlier adventure. Using his cloak, which gives him the power of invisibility and the strength of 12 men, Siegfried is able to help Gunther through the trials and defeat Brunhild. By her own terms, Brunhild agrees to marry Gunther. However, Gunther becomes paranoid and believes that Brunhild is plotting against him. He asks Siegfried to conquer the neighboring kingdom of Nibelungenlied and bring it under his rule. With thousands of new vassals working for him, Siegfried leads them against Brunhild's kingdom in order to ensure Gunther's safety.
Soon, Brunhild and Gunther, as well as Siegfried and Kriemhild, are married in a grand ceremony in Gunther's court. That night, Brunhild becomes suspicious of her new husband, when she is able to easily overpower him despite his supposed strength. When Gunther tells Siegfried of this, Siegfried offers to help him by using his invisibility cloak. Gunther agrees but orders Siegfried not to sleep with Brunhild in the process. Siegfried ignores this request, and as a result of being deflowered, Brunhild loses her massive strength. Siegfried takes Brunhild's ring and belt and gives them to Kriemhild.
Years later, Brunhild still feels that she has been deceived and convinces Gunther to invite Siegfried and Kriemhild to their kingdom. They are friendly at first, but an argument over which of their husband has a higher rank escalates, and soon Brunhild finds out that Kriemhild has a possession of her belt and ring. Brunhild is humiliated, and this has the potential to create a massive rift between Siegfried and Gunther.
Hagen, who has always distrusted Siegfried, convinces Gunther to allow him to assassinate Siegfried. They concoct a fake military threat that Siegfried agrees to face in battle. They convince Kriemhild to mark the vulnerable spot on Siegfried's back with a cross, then kill him with a javelin while he is bent over drinking, and steal the treasure of Nibelungenlied. Kriemhild finds out about this betrayal and vows revenge against all the responsible parties.
In Part 2, widowed and robbed of her treasure, Kriemhild puts her revenge into effect. Many years later, she is proposed to by King Etzel of the Huns. She marries him and invites her family, the Burgundians, to Etzel's castle. Although Hagen suspects a trap, he is mocked and Gunther takes his armor. A monk delivers a prophecy that they will all die, but Hagen tries to drown him to shut him up. The Burgundians are welcome to the castle, though they are warned by an ally of Etzel's, Dietrich of Bern, to keep their weapons on them. Kriemhild confronts Hagen, but he is unmoved and mocks her with her late husband's sword. Outside the castle, a fight breaks out between the Huns and Burgundians, and the castle is soon enveloped in mayhem. Hagen flies into a rage, killing Kriemhild and Etzel's young son in front of them.
As the Burgundians storm the hall, Etzel's warriors hold them off, and Kriemhild offers her brothers their lives if they turn over Hagen. When they refuse, she orders the hall burned with the Burgundians inside. Eventually, all are killed except for Gunther and Hagen. Kriemhild orders Gunther decapitated, but Hagen still stubbornly refuses to tell Kriemhild the location of the treasure he stole from her husband. She kills Hagen in a rage. Old Hildebrand, an elderly wise man in Etzel's castle, is enraged by the carnage and attacks her with a sword, but it has no effect. However, when she bends over to pick up a ring, her body falls to pieces in the same position Siegfried died in. Dietrich and Etzel mourn the death of so many in their castle as the epic poem ends.
In our group's analysis, this story is filled with an emotional roller coaster. It is filled with tragedy, betrayal, revenge, heroism, and unreciprocating loyalty. This story is made up of different themes that counter the flow of the plot that it actually bodes and mixes well together. It isn't entirely a one-plot story flow. It has its own unique twists and turns. It defies a sense of logic and normalcy, preferring to rise on its own combination of two sides of the story that utterly devours all the main characters at the finale of it all. For our group's analysis regarding the poetry Nibelungenlied, we can see here that there isn't a clear defined moral message for all the readers out there. However, it does raise an important question regarding the nature of loyalty, honor, and what constitutes tragedy. To tackle the overall point of the story, this has a free ending. No matter the designated outcome or plot, I think this story has an effect that all readers would have different opinions with. But there is one undeniable factor. Siegfried's undying but misplaced loyalty. This cost him his life. For someone he considered a friend to quite literally stab him in the back is one of the most tragic endings in one's life. It is shown here that the longer you live with those who you trust, it is often one or the other. You get to know them deeper, fully, or you come to the realization that you never knew them at all. Another side of the story we would like to analyze and dive in is the vengeance of Siegfried's wife, Kriemhild, against those who betrayed and turned their back on Siegfried. For this side of the story, we can see how one reacts when they are utterly consumed by hatred, and most especially vengeance for their loved one, going as far as to turn their back on those they are blood related with. Most especially when she found out that they were the ones responsible for her husband's assassination. We can witness here how blood turns against blood, how karma rains down on those who truly deserve them. And lastly, I would like to relate this quote that I have seen from many fictionated scenes and writings. The only ones who should kill are those who are prepared to be killed.